What is going on, guys? I am Alejandro Mendoza, and this video is part 4 on my complete theory on what I think happened to the O2 cast. So if you haven't watched part 3, part 2, and part 1 yet, make sure to go watch those first. I'll leave links to all of them in the description down below. But with that being said, let's get this video started. Now, before we get into obviously Jesmon's rebellion against Yggdrasil, and ultimately the plan he hatched to try and get the O2 cast out of Yggdrasil's base, I quickly want to talk about my theories just in general. I quickly want to address something about them. So I know that these videos go on long enough, but I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. So here we go. So obviously when it comes to theory videos, obviously all theory videos, they require some amount of speculation, they require some some assumptions, obviously, and obviously with my theory videos, I've always I think I've always tried to explain it in a way that was very well founded. It's that could be you could see it happening, if you've ever seen the film theorists, they make theories on a lot of movies and such, Matt, he comes up with all these theories say on Disney movies, and they at first they come off as very far-fetched, but then he actually explains them and gives evidence for them, and then you're like, I could see that happening. And I kind of wanted to do that with my theory video, obviously with what happened to the O2 cast and with Dark Jedi's plan. I wanted to, obviously give evidence and obviously show that maybe this could happen, so that people wouldn't completely disregard it, I could, people would watch the video and be like, that actually could happen. And I obviously try to give as much information and evidence as possible on those videos, when it came to explaining what happened between the O2 cast and the original cast, what I think happened to them. I tried to explain it in a way that would explain why the original digidestined are acting so cold towards the O2 cast, why they're not talking about them even though they're some of their closest friends. I tried to explain it in a way that would explain their behavior and would still be very much true to the characters. And that's what I've been trying to do with these videos, obviously. And during obviously the last video, I was obviously talking about how I think that Jesmon would eventually turn to the digidestined side, he would want to help the O2 digidestined get out of Yggdrasil's base. And I explained how the two sister mons would come and Gankumon would come, and obviously I added them into the story, and that was all okay. But the main difference I see between last video with Jesmon and the sister mon and all of them, and my other previous videos, is that when it came to Jesmon himself, and obviously Gankumon and all of them joining, that wasn't really based too much on obviously factual evidence from the series. It was based on the Digimon Wiki. Now obviously I'm not saying the Digimon Wiki provides false information. It provides very accurate information, but ultimately that story about Huckmon and just about how he ultimately became a Royal Knight, that was on the wiki, but it's actually never happened in the canon of the story so far. Obviously before Tri came along, we'd never seen Huckmon in it or Jesmon, so I just added in that story because first off, I couldn't see Jesmon being able to rescue the O2 cast on his own, at least not without some help, because even though he is very strong, I doubt he would be able to completely rescue them on his own. And secondly, I thought it would be obviously a very good background for Jesmon. But the problem with that is obviously in Digimon Adventure Tri, we haven't got anything on Jesmon really. All we know is that he's a messenger of homeostasis, and that he's obviously fighting against Alphamon, which shows that something happened between Jesmon and Alphamon, like that something caused this conflict between them. But other than that, like, there hasn't been any hints towards, the Sistermon, obviously, or towards Gankumon. So obviously, like that, when I added in those characters for Jesmon, like, that was like completely like speculative. Like, it was just like a really big assumption since we haven't gotten anything on Jesmon's like background. Like, besides obviously the wiki, but this is like, obviously Digimon Tri, so Jesmon could have a completely different backstory than the wiki gave him. And I just like quickly wanted to address that because I wanted to say like kind of like I'm sorry for doing that. Like, I feel like I should have been able to provide some more evidence for like adding them in there, but I didn't really do that, and I'm sorry about that. But ultimately, I just want to say that the reason why I'm making these videos is because I ultimately want to get my opinion out. I want to like let other people know what I think could happen. Like, just like overall discuss this with other people, like see what you think of it. And obviously I want to make it come off in a way that could, like, you could see it happening as well. But obviously at certain points, like there's gonna like be like obviously more some parts of a theory will require more speculation than others. Like obviously with Jesmon's background, that required more speculation. I mean, since obviously we haven't really gotten anything on him. And I just wanted to like say that like I will always like try my best to provide very good evidence for like why something happened, like why Kari and Davis fought, like obviously in my previous video, like I will always try to like provide as much evidence as I can from the actual canon of the story. But if I can't, then I'm going to obviously have to make some assumptions, and I just want to like apologize in advance for that. But like I'll always try my best to keep it as canonical to the story and like to the information that we have for now, because obviously we will learn more about certain characters later on. But like right now, like I'm just going to say that like that certain parts of this video, like obviously after I get through this part, that certain parts of this theory will require like a lot more speculation than others. And when I get to those said points, I think from now on I'll try to provide like maybe like more possible routes, like more possible ways that certain situation could turn out, because obviously some of them will be like a lot more speculative. And in this video there are going to be certain points that I feel will require a lot of assumptions, and I'll try to do my best to give one side that's like maybe like that, like basically two sides, one that like I could see happening, but if like that seems too speculative, I'll also give an other side to it as well that might not be as speculative. But yeah, with that being said, with all that being said, thank you for listening, and let's actually get into what I think happened with Jesmon's rebellion and ultimately the plan to try and rescue the O2 cast. So obviously during the last video where we left off, this was like right before, like this is we're getting into the point where it was almost the day of the rebellion. It was almost the day where Jesmon tried to save the O2 cast and tried to get them out of Yggdrasil's base. So right now, let's say this is the day before like the plan was supposed to go into motion. So the day is like obviously going by normally, as normally as it would get for the Digidestined, considering they're being tortured and such in Yggdrasil's base. So right now the Digidestined, like they're like going through, I guess, daily torture, I suppose. That just sounds so messed up. Like they're all going through like Jedi and Yggdrasil are still trying to make them subservient to his cause and trying to make the Digidestined go to Yggdrasil's side. So they're still trying their best to bring them over, but obviously the Digidestined aren't budging. So like they go like the Digidestined go through their torture, and like it's individually, like each one's going individually, and the last one to come back is Ken. And they're obviously all checking in on one another, they're all checking in on one another, making sure everyone's okay. And like, they ask Ken obviously if he's okay, and like, he says he's fine, but like Davis or Wormmon, like I'd say probably both of them, like they just get the feeling that something's off with Ken. They just like have this weird feeling. So obviously, like, it's almost like say like a couple hours pass on, like, it's almost night now, and before like, everybody goes to sleep and prepares like for the next day where they're going to try and escape, they go over their plan one last time. And since I obviously didn't go over the plan in the last part, I'll go over it now. So, what essentially I would say the plan would be is that the next day is obviously when Yggdrasil takes his, basically kind of like a sleep where he regains his powers. And, like that day, like, Yggdrasil won't be able to actually try and hurt them. So, like, that's the day they decide they want to, obviously escape, since Yggdrasil won't be a problem. So basically what the plan is that Sistermon Noor and Sistermon Blanc, they'll open the gate to let the Digidestined out, and obviously the Digidestined will follow them towards a portal, like in the base, because in Yggdrasil's base, like there has to be a way for obviously the Royal Knights and other Digimon to reach there. So there'd likely be at least a portal that can like transport Digimon to the actual base, or transport them out of it, or at least like a gate of some sort. But like I'd say it'd more likely be a portal like that most Digimon wouldn't be able to reach. At least not as if not like so easily. Only like the Royal Knights would really be able to like use it. So the Digidestined are going with the Sistermon to that portal, like they're taking the safest possible route to there, while Jesmon and Gankumon go into what would we call this? They would go into like basically the safe room, basically where the Digidestined Digivices are being held. So like the Jesmon and Gankumon will go there, and they'll fight against like whatever defenses there are and like they'll get the Digivices back. So once Gankumon and Jesmon get the Digivices back, they'll go meet the Digidestined and the Sistermon in the room. They'll go and meet the Digidestined and the Sistermon in the portal room. They'll go through the portal, like they'll be able to, like they'll go through the portal, like, and it leads to like probably like they could probably, like, with this being like Yggdrasil's base obviously, and Yggdrasil being a god, he'd probably be able to like set the portal to any location he'd want to in the digital world. So they set it to probably Huckmon's and Gankumon's like a training area, like a base probably, like similar to Jenai's house where it was underwater, but like in this turn it would be like Gankumon and Jesmon's like original home. So like they set it to there, and they're meant to like obviously go through it, but what they do like before they go through it is like they probably like set up like kind of a self-destruct device, basically, where like after they go through, it destroys the portal, and like Jenai and the Royal Knights can't go after them. So that's basically the plan. And the Digidestined and Jesmon and Huck, they all like basically go over it one last time before the next day, and they all fall asleep. So obviously, like it's going to be the next day very soon, but before the next day actually comes, like all of them are sleeping, but all of a sudden, like Sistermon say Noor, like she begins like waking up, and like she's like very tired, but like she opens her eyes for like a brief instant, and she sees in front of her like a person, and like she's like, but she's like very tired right now, so like to make sure she's not hallucinating, like she quickly like rubs her eyes, but like now that like her eyes are open, like the figure like that she thought she saw was gone. So like she just like assumes it was just her being like tired and like kind of hallucinating something, so she goes back to sleep. And obviously like she doesn't like realize that that like but like she doesn't realize like that the person that like she thought she saw was actually real. And but like obviously like we'll get to that a little bit later. I'll explain that a little bit later on. So now the next day comes, and all the Digidestined are ready. The Sistermon are ready. Jesmon and Gankumon are ready. And with Yggdrasil now in his sleep, they just, like, you know, they're like, now is the time, like, you know. So they begin the plan. The two Sistermon let the Digidestined out of the gate and are escorting them to the portal room. Gankumon and Jesmon are going to the safe room to get the Digidevices back. And in there they encounter Alphamon, who's protecting them. And there's likely probably be even another Royal Knight, maybe, possibly. And like the most likely candidate I'd say would be who was it? Probably Gallantmon or oh god, I can't remember his name. It's like the guy with the huge blade, like not Crusadermon, but like the guy like who's like also super loyal to Yggdrasil. I will remember. I'll try to remember his name later on, or I'll probably like put a picture of him in the video so that you guys can see who I'm talking about. So, you know, obviously they begin their fight against the Alphamon and the other Royal Knight, and you know they're trying to get but obviously their main objective is to just get the Digivices back for the Digidestined. So they're trying to do that, and the Digidestined are making their way to the portal room. They're obviously going through the safest possible route they can. And they eventually make it into there. And, you know, they're obviously, like, you know, relieved that they're finally actually in the room. They're, like, you know, thinking, like, you know, we'll finally be able to make it out. And, like, you know, they go in there and, like, you know, they're all happy. But then all of a sudden they hear something, like, they hear, like, kind of like a laser charging up. And they almost have no time to react. But, like, they manage to, like, dodge this blast in time. Like, you know, like a laser suddenly shoots out. And, like, Davis and the others, like, they jump away from the energy blast, but like, you know, Davis and Veemon, like, you know, are now on one side of the room, and Ken, Yoli, Cody, and their Digimon are on the other side. And, you know, obviously, like, you know, they're confused, like, you know, they're wondering where the hell that laser came from, and they look up and they just see a Dark Imperial Dramon. And obviously they'd be like very shocked at this. They'd be like, what, how, like, you know, why is there a Dark Imperial Dramon here? Like, you know, they obviously, like, you know, Veemon and Wormmon are with them, and, like, you know, they're not evil, so, like, they're wondering what the heck happened, like, and, like, you know, Davis is just like looking up, and the Sistermon, like, you know, they're like, they didn't expect this, but they like turned into their armed modes, and they're prepared to defend the Digidestined, even though, like, they probably won't be able to stand. Well, like, they are very experienced, but they probably wouldn't be able to, like, defeat the Dark Imperial Dramon. So, like, you know, they're doing their best to hold him off. And Davis is just in shock, like, you know, wondering, like, why is there a Dark Imperial Dramon here? And all of a sudden, like, he hears, like, a grunt and, like a grunt of, like, a pain coming from behind him. And he looks, and he just, like, sees Cody, Yoli, and, like, all their Digimon just, like, in these, in these, like, basically these, I don't want to say chains, but, like, what Mako had, like, you know, the purple ring around her neck, like, they're all, like, captured by these, like, a purple ring like that. And, like, you know, Davis is obviously, like, you know, he's in shock at this, and, like, you know, he, like, looks, and, like, he can't see, he looks, and he sees that Ken is, like, supposedly the one doing this, and he obviously turns to Ken and is like, Ken, what the heck do you think you're doing? And, like, you know, Ken just, like, turns to Davis, and, like, he's like, you know, well, Davis, like, it turns, well, Davis, like, you know, it seems the tables have turned, and, like, you know, Davis is obviously confused, but then he realizes that that this isn't Ken, like, that it's a Dark Jedi, and, like, you know, a Dark Jedi, like, changes from Ken back into his original form, and, like, you know, Davis is like, what did you do to Ken? And, like, you know, he's like, oh, nothing really, and, like, he begins to explain that yesterday, when all of them were being tortured, that when it ultimately came to Ken's turn, that when Ken came, like, you know, Dark Jedi, like, you know, he read that Dark Jedi, like, you know, interrogated Ken basically, and, like, while, like, Ken was able to fight back, ultimately, like, Jedi broke through his defenses and was able to get into his memories, like, because I feel like that the power to, like, actually see into, like, someone's memories would be something that you could fight against, basically. Like, you know, if you had a strong enough will, you could fight against whatever force was trying to see into your mind. So, like, you know, like, Jedi managed to break through Ken's barrier, and, like, he saw, like, you know, that they were planning on doing all this, and he obviously decided that, like, you know, rather than, like like rather than do like the smart thing and like tell Yggdrasil, like he decided like to have like basically kind of fun with the digidestined and like make it seem like they actually had a chance to escape. And like he obviously took the form of Ken and just like left Ken in the prison. Hey guys, Alejandro here. I'm sorry about the interruption into the video, but I needed to add this because the reason is because as I was editing through the video and stuff, I realized that I completely forgot to explain why Dark Jedi wouldn't tell Yggdrasil, and why Dark Imperial Dramon is there. Like how is he there? I completely forgot to explain that, and I'm adding this in to explain that. So I'm going to quickly do that right now, and then I'll get back into the theory. I'll let the video go back into the theory. So although this still is part of the theory, it's just like a part I forgot to add in. So yeah, I'll do it right now. So where I left off with is like I said, Dark Jedi basically took Ken's place and impersonated him so that the digidestined would still think like that they obviously had a chance. But obviously that begs the question, why wouldn't Jedi tell Yggdrasil? And being like, a lot of you are like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, Jedi of course would tell Yggdrasil or Alphamon or somebody. But the reason I don't think he would, at least like not right away, is for two main reasons. And those two main reasons are, first, that based on Digimon Adventure Tri Lost, obviously where like, we actually like saw Dark Jedi like interacting with the original cast and stuff. Like based on that, you can tell that Dark Jedi likes to toy with his enemies, basically. Like when like he was obviously like chasing the digidestined. You could tell that he was like just like toying with them, basically, because like he was just riding Machine Dramon the whole time and just like taunting them. And it's especially like shown when like they're running away from Jedi and Machine Dramon, like in the where like the ice was, like when they're running along there, like Jedi was just like having Machine Dramon fire off blasts at them, but like not actually directly towards them, like just like basically to scare them. And like the whole time, like the whole way he was just like taunting them, like this, like, because like this would be like a perfect chance to actually kill the digidestined, considering obviously like they're just like going in a straight path. Like all Jedi would have to do is like he could have done what Izzy did, where Izzy knocked an iceberg off, and like obviously that like landed on top of Machine Dramon. Like Machine Dramon could have like shot off an energy blast and like knocked an iceberg on the digidestined that could have either squashed them or blocked their path, and then they would have just basically been screwed. So obviously like based on that, we can tell that Jedi likes to actually toy with his enemies, in the sense like he likes to taunt them. Like he doesn't like to like immediately go in for the kill. And the second reason why I don't think he would immediately tell Yggdrasil or Alphamon or them is because like this in itself, like finding out about the O2 cast's plan to escape, like the rebellion and the involvement of Jesmon and them, like that in itself, I think Jedi would see as the perfect opportunity to finally break the digidestined, because you have to think about it from obviously the O2 cast perspective, because obviously in the context of the story, they've been captured, and they've been tortured for all these months, and obviously they've been tortured for a year and 9 months, and this is it, with Jesmon and Gankumon, they're obviously their last hope at escaping. Like, so if Jedi were to obviously immediately tell Alphamon or Yggdrasil, they would obviously immediately stop it. But Jedi would probably see this as a chance to break them, because if you were to have them think have the O2 cast think that they still have a chance at escaping, that they still can escape, and to have them keep thinking that, and have them almost get to the point where their plan succeeds, almost to where they're about to escape, only to have that taken away from them, and have that hope shattered at escaping. That would likely break most of the digidestined. Maybe not all of them, but the majority, if not all of them, would probably be broken by that. Maybe they still wouldn't give up in a sense, but this is basically their only chance to escape, and if they were to be captured, or if their plan were to fail, then obviously Jesmon, Genkumon, and the two Sistermon would probably be punished by being deleted. So basically that would mean their last hope at escape is gone, and they just have to stay in their cell, without any other chance of escape. So that's why I think that Gennai wouldn't just go immediately tell them he'd want to use this as a way to obviously break the Digidestined finally. So let me explain what I think happened when he actually took Ken's form and replaced him for the brief time he was with them. So like I said, during Ken's torture, he found out about the plan. He decided to leave Ken in the room, and he took Ken's form. So he went into the jail cell pretending to be Ken, and obviously the Digidestined went over their plan, and eventually everybody went to sleep. And I think that when everybody went to sleep, that's when Gennai left, because obviously since he is obviously a follower of Yggdrasil, he'd probably have a key that opens the gate, and he'd quietly get out, and he'd go to talk to Alphamon. That's where the whole scene with Sistermon Nor came in, where she woke up a little bit, and she thought she saw a figure, but before she could actually tell who it was, the figure just disappeared. That figure was meant to be Gennai, and that's it would be entirely possible for Gennai to do that, because we don't know exactly the full extent of his abilities yet, but we did see in Lost, obviously, that even after the Digimon all attacked him, and Palamon had him wrapped up in the poison ivy, Gennai just escape from it. He basically just kind of I'm not sure if you could call it teleporting, but it kind of seemed like he did teleport, because he just flew out of Palamon's poison ivy, and the next time we see him, he's where Mako is, and that was somewhere completely different than the ice place. So I don't think it'd be too far-fetched to say that he at least has some superhuman speed and possibly other abilities. So Gennai does that. He does that teleportation thing, or that speed thing, or whatever you want to call it. And he goes to meet Alphamon, and he tells Alphamon about the Digidestined's plan to escape. And obviously Alphamon is we have to stop this immediately. But at this point, say it's midnight, and Yggdrasil has already fallen asleep at midnight, because obviously takes a full day. Midnight is midnight is when the days change. So immediately at midnight, Yggdrasil fell asleep. So Alphamon is thinking we have to stop this ourselves right now. We can't let them escape. But I think Gennai would convince them to not just immediately go in and destroy Jesmon and to stop the entire plan, because he explained to Alphamon he's don't you realize that this is our chance? We can finally break the Digidestined. We can finally make them come to our side. And Alphamon at first is reluctant, but he finally kind of listens, and he's okay, Gennai, I'll go with your plan. But he's we have to make sure that we don't let them get away. So essentially the plan is that Gennai will once again go back into the gate and pretend to be Ken, while the Alphamon and the other Royal Knights just they pretend they don't know anything about it until the time is right, and that's when they are meant to they are meant to spring their trap on the Digidestined and onto Jesmon and Genkumon. So that's basically what I think happened. And it's with Jesmon and Genkumon, it's obviously I said that Jesmon and Genkumon would have to fight against Alphamon and Craniumon, and it's that entire fight seems to be going fine until all of a sudden another Royal Knight appears out of nowhere that they weren't expecting, because that begins to overwhelm them, and that's when Alphamon reveals to Jesmon and Genkumon that they knew about the plan all along thanks to Gennai. And with that, obviously Jesmon and Genkumon would want to go and help the O2 cast. And the same goes with the when the O2 cast were going to the portal room, Gennai was aware that they were heading towards there, so he put in a guard there when they finally made it in there. So, and that guard would be Dark Imperial Dramon. So, and the reason why Dark Imperial Dramon is there is because when it comes to obviously Dark Gennai, they'd want I said, in all these videos, they'd want the O2 cast to join them, But if they wouldn't, I could like totally see them like making clones of the digidestined Digimon, and that would be entirely possible because we see in 02 when Ken was the Digimon Emperor, he obviously collected data from Greymon, Garurumon, Devimon, like from a bunch of Digimon and put them all into Chimeramon. So it's certainly possible to like use data from Digimon to create at least portions of their body. And since like they obviously have like the actual Digimon there, they could like obviously like take data from them and like use that to create a clone. So I think that the Dark Imperial Dramon is a clone from Wormmon and Vmon that Jedi was like secretly creating to like obviously like use as a tool in case like the Digidestined wouldn't like comply. So yeah, with all that being said, I quickly wanted to add that in here just so like there's no more just so there's no confusion about that, because I feel if I hadn't added this in, like obviously a lot of people would be like like how can you think like that Jedi wouldn't tell Yggdrasil, or like why the heck is Dark Imperial Dramon there? That doesn't make any sense. So that's why I add this in. I think I might add in one more thing that I feel like I need to explain a bit more, but for now I just want to say thank you for listening, and I'm gonna change it back to the continuation of the theory right now. So I hope that you're enjoying the video, and yeah, continue to enjoy the theory if you are. Ken just like left Ken in the prison, and like like he just is explaining all this to Davis, and Davis would obviously be very just like angry and pissed off, like like he's like you bastard, like how could you do this? And like obviously as like this is all going on, like the Sistermon are trying to fight against Dark Imperial Dramon, but like they're not having too much luck. And eventually, like then all of a sudden, like suddenly they hear like this explosion, and like it breaks open one of the walls, and like Davis turns around, and it's Jesmon and Genkumon fighting against Alphamon, and I think I remember his name now. I think it's Craniumon. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But like then all of a sudden there's also a third one there, Gallantmon, and like it cuts back to a flashback with as Jesmon and Genkumon were fighting against them, and like everything was like seeming fine during the battle, but as they were fighting against the two Royal Knights, all of a sudden a third one appeared out of nowhere, and like they weren't able to like get the devices back, so they were forced to just retreat, but they were unable to obviously shake them off, and like right now they're just like fighting for their lives, like just doing their best to try and hold them off at least. And this is all happening. Davis is just like shocked, like thinking like how could all this happen? Like it shouldn't have gone like this. And Jedi is just like looking at Davis and like is like mocking him, like saying like, did you really think you could escape? Like he's like you people never had a chance. You're all just worthless. You're all just tools meant for Yggdrasil. And Davis is just like probably distraught at this point. Like he probably wouldn't want to give up, but like seeing all this, like seeing his friends being hurt right now, seeing like his newly found friends like Jesmon and Genkumon, but also like obviously the other Digidestined being hurt too. Like he's just like in shock at all of this, like thinking like this wasn't supposed to happen, and just like feeling that he should have been able to do something. And I feel that at a certain point, like with Jedi, that like we don't know like just like how far his abilities extend to. Like we know he was able to get out of like Palamon's like vines, and he was able to create that choking thing for Mako, but we don't know his full power yet. But we don't know like exactly what his abilities are. I mean, but I think with his master being Yggdrasil, like he would that Yggdrasil would obviously give Jedi the means to recapture the Digidestined if they escaped. Like maybe not like fight them, but like be able to like recapture them. So I think what happens is like that Jedi opens like this portal underneath the other Digidestined, like besides Davis and Vmon, because he has the other Digidestined captive, and the portal like throws them back in their cells, and like now Davis and Vmon are the only Digidestined left that are like still like with Jesmon and all of them. And Davis like right now is just like going through this is just like going through everything in his head. Like at this point, like because of everything that's going on, like because of the fact that like everything seems to be failing, there seems to be no hope. that the virus that Yggdrasil implanted him with begins to take over, and like it's like both like a physical change and like a mental one, like like perhaps like you see on his body like something like Yggdrasil, like a piece of Yggdrasil like beginning to like take over his arm and his body. And like the entire time, like Vemon is trying to like say to Davis, like you can't give up, like we have to save everyone. But like Davis is just like kind of stuck in his own world and was like about ready to give up. And like right at the point where Davis is going to give up, all of a sudden in his mind, like he like hears like someone calling to him, like, and like he opens his eyes and like right in front of him, like he sees Oikawa. And like he's like, Oikawa, like he's like, how are you here? Like wondering obviously how Oikawa is there since he obviously died. And Oikawa reveals to Davis like that he'd been in he gave all the digidestined and the Digimon his energy so that he could protect them from Yggdrasil. And that like right now obviously Davis is in danger of fully succumbing to the virus. And like he's like saying like you can't give up, Davis. You still have to save your friends. But Davis right now is like very like depressed and thinking Davis right now is very depressed and is thinking that there's no way to like save them, like that all hope is lost basically. And like Oikawa just like kind of smiles and says like what happened to the old Davis? And like he like shows them like an old memory, like a scene like say like when they were fighting Jesmon, where like even though like everybody else wanted to give up and like wasn't willing to fight, that he was the one that like like that he was that he like stayed strong and that he kept going because he knew he had to save his friends, even if they all like didn't want to fight, that he had to protect them. And like Oikawa just like showing him all these memories, like like when he like showed all of his courage, like showed just how good a leader he was, and like is reminding Davis of just like who he is, and like that he can't give up right now. And like Davis is just like hearing all of this, and like he's like remembering all those times, remembering back to before like Dark Jedi captured them, and remembering that like like just like who he was, and like he's like, you're right, Oikawa, I have to save them. And like this like breaks him out of the virus for a second, like the virus stops taking over him, and then all of a sudden like this like bright light shoots out from Davis, and like obviously everybody's like in shock at this, like they're wondering like where's this light coming from? And like Jesmon, Gankumon, and the Sistermon, like they can feel like their strength coming back to them. And like while everybody is like distracted by Davis like shining for a second, while everybody is distracted by Davis like shining for that moment, Jesmon, Gankumon, and the Sistermon like use it to their advantage. Like they use it to take the Royal Knights by surprise and like temporarily like put them out of the field for a second so that they can escape. So obviously Jesmon like is able to stop Alphamon for a brief instant. Gankumon stops the other two Royal Knights for brief instances. And the Sistermon, they honestly wouldn't probably be able to stop Imperial Dramon, but that's where I think that like Vemon would come in, like that Vemon would be able to like do it, like mainly because like the gold, like it's like a golden light shooting out from Davis, and like as like Davis is like shooting this golden light, Vemon is able to like for a brief moment, like a brief instant, like changes into Magnamon and like knocks out the Dark Imperial Dramon before like reverting back to regular Vemon status. And obviously with this, like Jesmon, Gankumon, and the Sistermon like realize this is their only chance to escape. Like they're not going to get another one. Like that despite all the other digidestined other than Davis being the ones like like they're all like captured again. Like Davis is the only one left that they have to escape. This is their only chance. So they quickly pick up Davis and Vemon, and they go through the portal and they escape. And obviously the portal self-destructs behind them, and like Jedi is just in shock at all this, like wondering like how the heck is this possible? Like like Davis didn't even have his Digivice. How was he able to do this? And like he's just thinking like through all this, like he's like, oh well, like we may like Davis may have escaped, but he like he won't be able to do anything on his own to stop us. And he like we after this like Jedi just like has to explain everything to Yggdrasil about what happened. And he explains like that like while like Davis was able to escape, like they can now use this to their advantage to manipulate the other cast, like to make it seem like that Davis just like left without them, like because he didn't care for them, to use it to try and manipulate them. Alright, so after this, like, you know, we'd have we go back to Jesmon, Davis, and them, and they obviously managed to escape. So, like, you know, Davis would probably be very angry at this. He'd probably be like, you know, why did you take me here? Like, you know, we should have gone back for the others. And obviously, like, you know, this leads to an argument between them, like, you know, with Davis saying, like, you know, we could have saved them. Like, you know, we shouldn't have left them there. But, like, obviously, like, Genkumon would probably be like, you know, Genkumon would probably be like, what would we have done? Like, you know, we were all weakened to that point, and we only managed to escape because of that light that shined out of you for that instant. He's like, so how do you propose we would have saved them? And, like, Davis, like, can't come up with anything. Like, you know, he's like thinking, like, well, like, you know, like, maybe that light could have given me the strength to, like, save them. Like, obviously, but, like, he has to accept the reality that, like, you know, even, like, in that brief instant, like, you know, it was only very brief, and he wouldn't have been able to, like, keep using it. So, obviously, like, you know, Davis, like, would still be, like, very angry, and, like, you know, he'd probably be more mad at himself, like, you know, for not being strong enough to save everyone. But eventually, like, you know, Davis calms down, and after this, like, the main focus for Davis and Jesmon and all of them is to, one, find a way to save the other O2 cast again, and the second would be to find a way to save Oikawa in a sense, like, to keep Oikawa from dying from the reboot, because obviously that would reset it to a point before Oikawa even existed. Well, not before, like, you know, Oikawa was born, but before Oikawa became energy for the digital world. So, like, you know, they're trying to do those two things mainly. Those two things mainly is to save the other cast and to try and find a way to save Oikawa. But they're probably also, like, want to, like, help Davis, like, to actually harness that golden energy that emitted from him for a second. And, you know, they'd probably, for the, like, you know, obviously this takes place 1 year before Tri, so, like, during the next, like, year, they'd do, like, you know, they'd try to save the other cast again, and they'd try to find a way to save Oikawa, but they'd also be trying to help Davis to harness that energy. Now, this is a part where, like, you know, that I want to explain, like, obviously my speculative side, like, you know, because, like, this is, like, very speculative, like, obviously, like, the golden light that shined out of Davis, and the way I see that working is that obviously, like, the Digivices themselves, like, they're, like, obviously tools to help the Digidestined get the Digimon to Digivolve, but ultimately, like, you know, what makes the Digimon Digivolve is, like, the emotion, like, the bond they have with their partner. Like, the Digivice itself is just, like, a way to kind of to, like, balance out, like, you know, to, like, it's, I want to, like, describe it like kind of like like say a river. Like, if you, like, obviously, like, have a path for the river, it will flow one way. So, like, the Digivice is kind of like the path in a sense. It's like the path that's keeping the energy flowing to the Digimon. But, like, that's ultimately just what it's meant for, is to be a path to help the Digidestined get their Digimon to Digivolve. So, like, I don't think it'd be too far to fetch to say that if, like, a Digidestined were to be, like, very emotional, like, you know, like, to be pushed to a point where his emotions were at, like, his or her emotions were at, like, you know, just a very high point, that his power would then, like, you know, just, like, kind of burst out even without the need for a Digivice. And obviously, like, you know, this in itself is very speculative. So I'll also, like, say, like, I could see something else happening as well. Is that like, during that scene where, like, you know, they're fighting and everything, is that rather than Davis, like, shooting out his energy, you could say that maybe Genkumon sacrificed himself to get Jesmon to leave, like, you know, like that like, you know, that Davis didn't escape with them, that when all this was happening, like, Davis actually, like, you know, either gave up or gave into the virus, and that Genkumon was forced to sacrifice himself in order to get Jesmon to escape. So you could, if you really, like, you know, don't agree with my idea that, like, you know, Davis could shoot out, like, golden energy, like, if his emotions were pushed, like, high enough, then, like, you could say, like, you know, that nobody managed to escape, and, like, it was ultimately because of Genkumon that Jesmon even got out of there. But ultimately, that is going to be the end on this theory. Hey guys, Alejandro here once again. This is the second edition that I wanted to add in, and basically what this edition is about is I obviously forgot to explain, like, you know, the why Davis didn't like go to the real world like during that 1 year like gap, between his escape and obviously Tri. And I'm going to explain that right now. So the obvious reason for Davis not being able to, go back to the real world is because of the simple fact that he does not have his D3 at the moment, because obviously Jesmon and Gankumon were unable to retrieve the Digidestined's Digivices. So Davis, he does not have his Digivice right now, so he's not able to use it to open up a gate to the real world. And that's why he hasn't like gone to the real world in like this whole like in the year gap basically. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you are gonna bring up like obviously like the fact that Hackmon he's been able to go to the real world, and if like in my theory I always like like that Hackmon helped Davis and like tried to help all the Digidestined, like managed to at least get Davis out. Obviously, it's like why didn't he like take Davis with him to the real world then? Well, I'm gonna like say like that is due to the simple fact that that with Huckmon that obviously like, he's going to the real world like probably through like the distortions as well. Like you have to like realize that obviously like the distortions themselves like they haven't like they didn't really like start until like the first movie of Tri, and I'm pretty sure like that's like gonna be the likely method that Hackmon has been using to actually get to the digital world and to the real world. Like he's been using the distortions just like other Digimon have. And I think that obviously with the distortions though, that since Davis and Digimon have like the virus, like they have Yggdrasil's virus inside them, that if they were to say go through a distortion, that it could possibly enhance or amplify the virus like that they have within them, and it could possibly like hurt them even more. So like they Huckmon just doesn't want to take that risk. So like Davis has just been like staying in the digital world mainly to like obviously focus on saving everybody else. Like that he wants to like, I'm not saying like he doesn't want to go back to the real world. He would probably really want to go back to the real world, but because like he obviously doesn't have his D3 and the distortions could be potentially harmful to him and Veemon, they just like can't go. So yeah, just really wanted to quickly add that in to explain it. And yeah, I'll just let you guys get back to the rest of the video on this theory. So thank you all for watching. This is just like gone on like so much longer than I thought it would. Like I said in my first video, I thought like that I'd be able to finish this in just the first video, but that just turned out not to be the case. But this was really fun to do, and I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I got this idea out there. And ultimately, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, maybe leave a like. And if you're enjoying the content I'm producing, maybe consider subscribing. And if you already are subscribed to me, then thank you for that. You are awesome. And even if you have like any critiques of me, like any problems with my theory, or like or there's something you feel that I should have explained more, or just overall your thoughts in general on this, post it down in the comments. Like I'd be happy to explain anything, because obviously like there are certain things in here that would need more explanation. And like if you do have anything that you want me to explain, I might make another video like explaining like a certain part of this, or like just explain it down in the comments below. But ultimately, this is gonna be the end of the video and like the last part to my theory. So once again, thank you all for watching. I am Alejandro Mendoza, and I will see you later. Bye.